In the twilight of December 9th, 1965, something mysterious streaked across the sky, captivating the attention of eyewitnesses and sparking a series of events that would leave an indelible mark on Kecksburg history. What exactly descended from the heavens that fateful evening? Was it a meteor, a satellite, or perhaps something far more extraordinary? Welcome back to Let's Be Brief. This is the first episode of 2024. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Syndey.
And this week we're talking about the Kecksburg UFO in Pennsylvania. Do we want to do small talk first? How was your holidays, or just skip that? We weren't really doing it. Yeah, okay. Do you know anything about the Kecksburg?
I've never heard of this, at all.
Okay. I hadn't either. My dad's asked me 2 or 3 times, so I was like, you know what? I will do it, because he's the only one that's asked for a topic.
I know, I was gonna say, he's begging us to do something. The only one, and we're like...
First episode. This is what we're doing. But once I heard more of it, I was like, okay, I think I do know this, actually. Just not the name.
Maybe I will, too.
Yeah. Okay. So on December 9th, 1965, around 4:45 p.m., there was a fireball seen in the sky across multiple states. I heard Michigan, Ohio, parts of Canada, and New York. And then supposedly the same thing came over Pennsylvania. And eyewitnesses said it landed in the woods near Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, and people went out to see what it was. And the majority of the town, because the town's really not that big, so the majority of the town saw it in the sky, and probably a dozen or so people went out looking for it in the woods. So you have a lot of eyewitnesses for this.
I cannot imagine seeing something fall out of the sky and running towards it. I would be I need to get the fuck out of here.
Well, 1965, maybe you're more curious? I don't know. Yeah, I would feel is that when the Cold War was?
Yes.
Right. So maybe I would be more hesitant, but I don't know. Small town, what else you got going on?
True.
You gotta go see. But eyewitnesses in the town said they heard no sound of the impact at all when they saw it coming down. So that's weird. And then some eyewitnesses said they saw it slow down and that it made some turns in the sky, like a figure 8 pattern. So it seemed to be controlled by something.
Yeah, I really would not be running into the woods to see what this is if it's moving on its own.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I guess more people are curious. I don't know. But there were definitely people that went out in the woods to search for it. And they said they found an object partially buried in the ravine, and it was smoking, a blue smoke was coming from it. And some said there was a blue light coming from the bottom of it, or kind of it was arcing electricity, which is scary.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And it smelled of acid or something similar to that. And it was a large metallic object, and it was shaped like an acorn. And it was dented probably from the impact, but it was a bronzy copper color. And one of the witnesses said he really couldn't describe accurately what color it was. He's never seen that color of metal before. And then it was also perfectly seamless with no windows. And it had strange writing around the bottom of it. And they also said it was the size of a Volkswagen, which is pretty big.
God. Yeah.
So the picture I have for just Syndey is a small clay model of what they said it looked like, with the weird writing on the bottom.
It does look like an acorn.
Yeah. And perfectly seamless and stuff.
Yeah.
So within 2 hours, the military shows up to this town that's in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. And that's weird. And since it was so quick that they showed up, it seemed either they were following it on radar or something tipped them off. And in the town, it was like martial law. Like they quarantined the area of the woods and kicked everyone out. And a lot of military personnel were in the town and told people to like go inside, like kind of curfew hours. And eyewitnesses said the soldiers recovered the object quickly, loaded it onto a flatbed truck, and covered it with a tarp so that you couldn't see what was under it. And then supposedly the truck took the object to the Lockbourne Air Force Base in Columbus, Ohio. And then at some point it was transferred to the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, where I guess it's supposedly still located if they have it. And I guess Dayton's like the Midwest Area 51. Like everything
Oh,
goes there.
I have heard a lot about Wright Patterson
Yeah.
in my various alien ventures. I mean, okay, my one thing is like for all they knew, like the military could have thought it was like a Cold War, like a
Right.
Russian thing too. Like they probably did not know what it was either.
Right. Like they're just following orders, like the soldiers there. I mean, there were
Yeah.
probably like one or two higher up officials like organizing it, so they might have known, but yeah, they're just doing the job. But the military told the people in the town they didn't see anything, and they also said it was a meteorite and to not speak of it again. However, John Murphy, who is the news director of like the local news station in town, wouldn't let it go. And he was apparently one of the people who went into the woods to see the object, and he said he took photos. But he said while he was in the woods, he was confronted with the military and they took his film and camera. But supposedly he had like one roll of film or something in his pocket that they didn't get, which he told his wife this, but he never showed anyone still. So I don't know if he actually had anything, but he thought it was important to document like what people saw, so he went around the town asking eyewitnesses to go on record with what they saw and was like tape recording it. And he called the project Object in the Woods, so clearly something was there that the town's talking about. And
He's creative.
yeah, you know, the news needs to be direct, straight to the point. But he was going to go on air, like on the radio with everyone's stories. But right before like he was gonna do that, he received multiple calls from people saying they no longer wanted their name publicly on the project. And they like changed their story, saying they were confused with what they saw and that it was a meteorite. And like this was possibly due to military or local pressure. Like one person told him they were afraid of the state police coming for them, and another said they were afraid of the army. So that's weird.
Right.
And then he decided to let it go for a few years. Like he never actually put on air the stories or anything. I mean, he made a statement saying that he had stories, but people didn't want their name on it anymore. And that's like, he just made like a statement on it. So nothing was actually released. Um, but like after a few years, he just couldn't like not say anything. So he told like someone that he had the photos and wanted to like tell the story, like leak it out there. And this was like years later. But then he was killed before he could do that in like a weird,
What?
yeah, in like a weird hit and run in Santa Barbara.
What the fuck? Oh, they took him
Right.
out.
Yeah. So the wife was like, she said that the story she got was like he wanted to see an oil slick that was across the street and was hit by a car and killed like as he was crossing the street. But like it was at 10 p.m. So like how are you going to see an oil slick?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what? Who cares about an oil slick? What
Well,
the
he is like a
hell?
reporter, so maybe to make a story, like a news story. But like at 10 p.m.
Also in California, where it's not
Yeah,
relevant?
right.
Or did he live there?
No, he's from Kecksburg. Well, I don't think. Well, okay. The thing I read didn't say if they moved to Santa Barbara, but
Right, I was gonna say, like,
I think it
maybe
was
he
on a
did move.
story. Yeah, I don't think he moved.
Interesting.
But I mean, the wife was very skeptical, and she doesn't think that's really what happened. But yeah, he never got to leak the photos or the story. Um, But so in the government, I don't know if you've heard of these different ones, but there was a Project Sign, or also known as Project Saucer, that started in 1948, which the goal of this project was to collect, evaluate, and distribute within the government all information relating to UFO sightings on the premise that they might represent a national security concern, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then just a year later after that, it morphed into Project Grudge, which was intended to alleviate public anxiety over UFOs and persuade the public that UFOs constituted nothing unusual or extraordinary.
Why did they call it Grudge?
Right, I don't know why they called it Grudge. But UFO sightings were explained as balloons, conventional aircraft, planets, meteors, optical illusions, solar reflections, or even large hailstones. And project officials recommended that the project be reduced in scope because the very existence of Air Force officials' interest encouraged people to believe in UFOs and contributed to a war hysteria atmosphere.
I mean, that's their MO. Like, don't give it any attention and it
Right,
won't gain any attention. I feel like they do that a lot.
right, yeah. So then this moved, like, morphed again into Project Blue Book, which I'm sure people are
Yeah,
more
I've heard of
familiar.
that one.
Right. So that was from 1952 to 1969. So that was during the time of this Kecksburg incident. So the project, which was headquartered at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton,
Which,
Ohio.
yeah, I was gonna say that's probably why I've heard of it because of Blue Book.
Right. But the project had two goals. One was to determine if UFOs were a threat to national security, and two, to scientifically analyze UFO-related data. But like in the TV show episode like that I watched, which will be linked in the description, um, there was a retired military official or something like that who said Project Blue Book's main objective was to limit the number of reports of UFOs and show that everything is explainable in the Air Force and by extension the government has things under control in our airspace to like alleviate public concern. So not a surprise that they told them during this that you didn't see anything.
Right, and I've heard that, like, Blue Book, like, there's still stuff they couldn't even explain. Like, their whole goal was just to figure out how to explain everything, and they couldn't. Like, there's
Right.
a lot of them that they can't.
Yeah, there is a significant portion. I would say it's still the minority, but like this, they said was explained, and it's really not.
Yeah,
So it's
right.
like,
And they love to call everything swamp gas.
that's crazy. But yeah, they were big on explaining everything as weather balloons or meteorites or other common things. So that's exactly what we saw with this. And also just I didn't know it was based in Wright-Patterson and that's where they took this object supposedly. So that's weird. Also the official account in Project Blue Book for this incident in Kecksburg says the woods were sectioned off and searched by military personnel until 2 a.m., but nothing was found.
Liars!
Right.
Liar, liar, pants on fire. That's
Right.
sketchy. They should have just said they found a meteor if there's all these people who said that.
Right.
Like, if they told the people to say it was a meteor
Right.
and they.
Say that's what. But why would they recover that?
Maybe they were analyzing it for science. I don't know.
Minerals
But,
or
like,
something? Yeah.
yeah, either way, like, if you're
Right.
gonna tell people it's a meteor, then you should officially report that it's a meteor, not nothing, because that just creates reasonable doubt.
Right. Yeah. Also, I just thought the fact that it was listed in the Project Blue Book without, like, by saying it was nothing was suspicious. Just
Yeah.
why even include it if you're gonna, but maybe because there were so many witnesses to it, you can't ignore
Right.
it. But I'm surprised they put it, like, in writing. But yeah, there are, I guess, maybe two possible explanations. Not really, in my opinion, but I'll go through them. The first is there was definitely a meteorite at that time and date. A fireball was seen in the sky in Michigan and Ohio and parts of Canada, like into New York. And people just assumed like that was the same thing that people saw in Kecksburg. But if you look at the map that I have just for Sydney, the trajectory of the meteorite like doesn't match up with Kecksburg.
Right